A broke driver risked everything to save a billionaire heiress. One kiss changed both their lives. Before we dive into this incredible story, make sure you hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and leave a comment below telling us what you think. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. What would you do if you had 3 seconds to save someone's life, knowing it would cost you your own? The Grand Celestial Hotel shimmered under 1,000 crystal lights. 600 of the city's most powerful people filled the main hall, their designer clothes worth more than most people earned in a lifetime. They came for the annual Metropolitan Charity Summit, where millionaires pretended to care about the poor while sipping champagne that cost $1,000 per bottle. Marcus Chen stood against the marble pillar where staff were supposed to be invisible. He wasn't looking at the wealth or the glamour. His eyes moved constantly, trained by years of experience to see what others missed. Patterns, threats, the small details that separated life from death. He had been driving for Victoria Sterling for exactly 93 days. Ever since her mother collapsed during a board meeting and never woke up. The official report said stroke. Marcus knew better, but knowing and proving were two different things, and proof didn't pay for Emma's surgery. His 9-year-old daughter needed a kidney transplant, and the medical bills were crushing him alive. So he drove, he watched. He kept his suspicions locked away where they couldn't hurt the only person who depended on him. Victoria moved through the crowd like she'd been born to it. 27 years old, owner of Sterling Global Enterprises, worth $3 billion, and completely alone. Her mother's death had left her at the top of an empire with sharks circling in every direction. The media called her the Ice Princess. Marcus thought she just looked tired. That's when he saw him. A server, dark uniform, silver tray, moving through the guests with mechanical precision. But his shoulders were wrong. Too rigid, too military. His eyes weren't watching where he was going. They were locked on Victoria's champagne glass like a missile tracking a target. Marcus's pulse kicked up. He scanned the man's hands. Clean, professional, no visible weapons. But the way he angled his body as he approached Victoria's group, the subtle shift of his weight, the micro-expression that flashed across his face when someone nearly bumped his tray. Training. Combat training. The server reached Victoria's circle. She was laughing at something a senator was saying, her guard momentarily down. The man's hand moved to the tray, selected a specific glass. Marcus could see from across the room that it was slightly different, the liquid inside just a shade darker, and extended it toward her. 2 seconds. Victoria's fingers reached for the glass. She was still smiling, still engaged in conversation, completely unaware that her life was about to end. 1 second. Marcus moved. He crossed the ballroom floor like a shadow, weaving between conversations and startled guests. The server saw him coming at the last moment, his eyes widening, but it was too late to adjust. Victoria's hand closed around the champagne glass. She began to lift it. Marcus reached her and did the only thing his training and instinct screamed at him to do. He kissed her. His hand caught her wrist, pulling her toward him. His lips crashed against hers, hard and desperate, not with passion but with purpose. He felt the cold glass against his palm as he took it from her fingers and brought it to his own mouth, felt the liquid transfer from her lips to his as he stole the poison meant for her. The taste hit him, immediately, metallic, chemical, burning like acid spreading across his tongue and down his throat. His training told him what it was even as his body began to shut down. Polonium compound, radioactive poison, tasteless when diluted properly, but whoever mixed this batch had been sloppy. Or maybe they hadn't cared. Either way, he had just swallowed enough to kill a person 3 times over. The ballroom exploded into chaos. 600 people watched in stunned silence as Victoria shoved Marcus away from her, her face flushed with shock and fury. Her hand came up and cracked across his face with enough force to snap his head to the side. "Have you lost your mind?" Her voice cut through the sudden quiet like a blade. Phones appeared. Cameras flashed. Marcus could hear the whispers starting, spreading like wildfire through the crowd. The driver who kissed his employer. The scandal. The spectacle. He tried to speak, tried to explain, but his throat was closing. The poison was working faster than he'd expected. His vision blurred at the edges, and the room tilted dangerously. "Victoria." The word came out slurred, wrong. "The drink." It was. His legs gave out. He felt Victoria catch him as he fell, felt her hands on his face, heard her voice change from fury to fear in an instant. "Call an ambulance, now." But Marcus was already fading. The last thing he saw before darkness claimed him was the server. The man had vanished into the crowd, melting away like he'd never existed. And Marcus knew, with the clarity that comes in moments of dying, that this was just the beginning. Marcus woke up in pain. Every nerve in his body screamed. His mouth felt like he'd swallowed broken glass and battery acid. The fluorescent lights above him were too bright, stabbing into his skull with relentless precision. "Don't move." A woman's voice, professional and calm. "You're in a private medical facility. You've been unconscious for 14 hours. Marcus forced his eyes to focus. The woman standing beside his bed was in her 40s, dark hair pulled back in a tight bun, wearing a white coat that marked her as a doctor. But her eyes were too alert, too knowing. Military Medical Corps. He'd worked with enough of them to recognize the look. "Where's Victoria?" His voice came out as a rasp. "Safe. Under protection." The doctor checked his IV, adjusted something on the monitor beside his bed. "My name is Dr. Helen Park. I used to work with military intelligence before I went private. Victoria called me directly after you collapsed. She told me what you did." Marcus tried to sit up. The room spun viciously. The poison, polonium 210, mixed with a heavy metal accelerant. Dr. Park's voice was matter of fact, but her eyes were grave. "Whoever prepared that dose wanted death to look natural. Heart attack, organ failure. It would have taken maybe 6 hours. Victoria would have made it home, gone to bed, and never woken up. But I drank it." Marcus stated the obvious. "You drank most of it. The transfer from her lips to yours saved her life, but it's killing you." Dr. Park pulled up a chair. "I've given you chelating agents, radioactive isotope binders, every treatment we have. It's bought you time, maybe weeks, maybe months. But Marcus, you're dying." The words should have hit harder. Instead, Marcus felt strangely calm. He'd made his choice in that ballroom. He'd do it again. "Does Victoria know?" "She's waiting outside. She hasn't left since we brought you here." Dr. Park stood. "Before I let her in, you need to understand something. Victoria Sterling isn't just a billionaire heiress. She's smart. She's asking questions. And she's not going to stop until she gets answers." The door opened. Victoria walked in looking nothing like the polished executive from the gala. Her hair was pulled back in a messy knot. She wore jeans and an oversized sweater. No makeup. Her eyes were red-rimmed and fierce. She stopped at the foot of Marcus's bed, arms crossed, and studied him with an intensity that would have made lesser men look away. "Tell me everything," she said. "And don't you dare lie to me." Marcus met her gaze. "Your mother didn't die of natural causes." The words hung in the air between them. Victoria's face went pale, but she didn't flinch. "How do you know?" "Because I was hired to protect you before I ever became your driver." Marcus forced himself to sit up despite the screaming protest from his body. 3 months ago, a man contacted me. He said his name was Thomas Gray. He claimed he was a friend of your mother's, that she was in danger and needed security but couldn't be obvious about it. He offered me $50,000 up front and another $100 when the job was done. All I had to do was get hired as your driver after your mother died and keep you alive." Victoria's expression hardened. "You knew she was going to die, and you did nothing." "I thought it was a scam. Some con artist who'd figured out your mother was sick and wanted to profit from it." Marcus's voice was raw with regret. "I took the money because Emma needed surgery. I figured I'd drive for you for a few months, take the second payment if it ever came, and that would be that. I didn't believe that someone would actually murder her." Victoria finished. She walked to the window, stared out at the city. "Who's Thomas Gray?" "I don't know. The number he called from is disconnected. The money came from an offshore account that's been closed. I tried to find him after your mother died, but he's a ghost." Marcus paused. "But someone knows you're in danger. Someone tried to warn us. And someone else just tried to finish the job." Victoria turned back to him. "The server. Did you recognize him? Professional. Military training. Probably hired through a contractor." Marcus pulled himself fully upright, ignoring the wave of nausea. "Victoria, whoever is behind this has serious resources. They're not going to stop. Last night was attempt number 2. There will be a third. Then we find them first. Victoria's voice was ice and steel. My mother spent her last 6 months acting paranoid. She changed her will 3 times. She moved money into protected accounts. She was afraid of something, someone. I thought she was just stressed about the company, about her health. But she was trying to protect me, wasn't she? Probably. Marcus watched Victoria's face, saw the guilt and fury warring there. Did she leave anything behind? Files, documents, anything that might tell us who she suspected? Victoria was quiet for a long moment. Then, she had a storage unit. Private, off the books. She gave me the key a week before she died. Told me only to open it if something happened to her. She looked at Marcus. I haven't been there yet. I couldn't. But maybe it's time. We go tonight. Marcus swung his legs off the bed. His body screamed in protest. Doctor. Park appeared in the doorway. You're not going anywhere. You need rest. Observation. I need to keep Victoria alive. Marcus stood, gripping the bed rail for support. Which means I need to figure out who's trying to kill her before they succeed. Victoria stepped forward and took his arm, lending support without asking. We do this together. You saved my life, Marcus. Now let me help save yours. The storage unit was in an industrial district on the edge of the city. The kind of place where people kept things they didn't want found. Victoria drove them there in a rental car, something anonymous and untraceable. Dr. Park came along despite her protests, carrying a medical bag and muttering about suicidal patients. The facility was nearly deserted at 10 p.m. Victoria used her key to access Unit 247, a medium-sized space in the back corner. The door rolled up with a metallic shriek. Inside were boxes, dozens of them, neatly labeled and stacked. Victoria's mother had been methodical even in her paranoia. They spent 2 hours going through files, financial records, board meeting minutes, employee backgrounds, and then Victoria found it. Marcus, look at this. She held up a folder marked Summit Industries Acquisition. Inside were documents detailing a proposed merger between Sterling Global and Summit Industries, a smaller competitor. But the papers were covered in Victoria's mother's handwriting. Notes, questions, circled names, and at the top of one page, written in red ink, Daniel Frost, verify background, possible infiltration. Daniel Frost is your chief operating officer, Marcus said. He's been with the company for 8 years. He was my mother's hire. She brought him in from Summit Industries after their company collapsed. Victoria flipped through more papers. According to this, my mother started suspecting him 6 months ago. She thought he might be working for someone else. Feeding information, sabotaging deals, or worse. Marcus took the folder, studied the documents. If Frost is a plant, if someone put him in your company years ago, they've been planning this for a long time. Victoria's phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen and her face went white. What is it? Text message. Unknown number. She turned the phone so Marcus could see. The message was simple. Back away or your driver's daughter dies next. Below it was a photo. Emma, Marcus's 9-year-old daughter. The picture was taken through the window of her hospital room. She was sleeping, hooked up to machines, completely vulnerable. Marcus felt something cold and terrible settle in his chest. They know about Emma. Who knows about Emma? Victoria's voice was sharp. Almost no one. Her medical records are sealed. I've been careful. Marcus's mind raced. But if Frost has been inside your company for years, if he has access to HR records. He knows you work for me. He knows about your background. And he knows about your daughter. Victoria was already moving, pulling out her phone. I'm calling security. We're moving Emma to a different hospital. Private facility. Armed guards. No one gets near her. But Marcus caught her wrist. If we move her now, they'll know we're onto them. They'll adjust. Go underground. We'll never prove anything. You want to leave her there. As bait. Victoria's eyes blazed. I want to catch whoever sent that message before they can hurt anyone else. Marcus's voice was steady despite the fear clawing at his insides. We put surveillance on Emma's room. Hidden cameras. Extra security that looks like normal hospital staff. And we set a trap. Victoria stared at him. You're willing to risk your daughter. I'm willing to risk everything to stop these people. Marcus met her eyes. Because if we don't end this now, they'll just keep coming. For you, for Emma, for anyone who gets in their way. After a long moment, Victoria nodded. They worked through the night. Victoria called in favors, pulled strings, used resources Marcus didn't know existed. By dawn, Emma's hospital room was a fortress disguised as normalcy. 4 undercover agents posing as nurses and orderlies. Hidden cameras in every corner. Biometric sensors on the windows and doors. And Marcus watching from a command center 3 floors up, barely able to breathe every time someone entered his daughter's room. She's safe, Victoria said beside him. She'd stayed with him the whole night, bringing coffee and food he couldn't eat, just being present. Nothing's going to happen to her. You can't promise that, no, but I can promise that if anyone tries, they'll regret it. The hours crawled past. Emma woke up, ate breakfast, watched cartoons on the hospital TV. She had no idea she was being protected, no idea her father was slowly dying from poison, no idea that her life had become a chess piece in someone else's game. At 2 p.m., Victoria's phone rang. It's Frost, she said, looking at the screen. He wants to meet. Says it's urgent. Marcus's instincts prickled. Where? His office. In 1 hour. Victoria's jaw tightened. He says he has information about my mother's death. Says it's time we talked. It's a trap. Of course it's a trap. Victoria smiled, but there was no humor in it. So let's spring it. Sterling Global Enterprises occupied 47 floors of glass and steel in the heart of downtown. Victoria and Marcus entered through the executive entrance at exactly 3 p.m., bypassing security with Victoria's access codes. The building felt wrong. Too quiet. Too empty for a Thursday afternoon. Where is everyone? Victoria's voice echoed in the marble lobby. Frost cleared the executive floors. Said there was a gas leak. Sent everyone home. Marcus checked his phone. Dr. Park was monitoring his vitals remotely, and the readings weren't good. He had maybe 6 hours before his organs started failing. He wants privacy. They took the private elevator to the 45th floor where the executive offices lived. The doors opened onto a silent corridor lined with expensive art and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Daniel Frost was waiting in the conference room at the end of the hall. He was in his early 50s, handsome in the way powerful men often were, with silver-touched hair and a smile that never quite reached his eyes. He stood when they entered, gesturing to the chairs around the massive table. Victoria, Marcus, thank you for coming. Cut the pleasantries, Daniel. Victoria remained standing. You wanted to talk about my mother. So talk. Frost's smile widened. Right to the point. Just like her. He pulled out a tablet and set it on the table. Your mother was a brilliant woman, Victoria. Brilliant and paranoid. 6 months before she died, she started asking questions. Digging into old acquisitions. Reviewing financial records from years ago. She found something, Marcus said. She found everything. Frost tapped the tablet and financial documents filled the screen. 8 years ago, when Summit Industries collapsed, it wasn't an accident. My associates and I, we engineered it. Destroyed the company from the inside, tanked the stock, bought it up for pennies. Then we used the remains to infiltrate Sterling Global. Victoria's face had gone pale. You used my mother's generosity against her. She hired you to help people who'd lost their jobs. And I've been bleeding her company dry ever since. Shell corporations, false vendors, offshore accounts, small amounts, carefully hidden. Over 8 years, we've siphoned nearly $400 million. Frost looked almost proud. Your mother never would have noticed if she hadn't started that audit. But she did, so she had to go. You killed her. Victoria's voice was barely a whisper. We made it look natural. Quick, clean, merciful even. Frost leaned back in his chair. And then you became a problem. Young, idealistic. You started reviewing everything your mother had been working on. It was only a matter of time before you found what she found. So you tried to kill me too. Victoria's hands were shaking. With rage or fear, Marcus couldn't tell. The gala should have worked. Neat, public, tragic. The young heiress overwhelmed by grief and stress. No one would have questioned it. Frost's eyes shifted to Marcus. But you had to be a hero. Had to play Secret Service. Now you're dying, and Victoria knows too much, and we're all standing here having this very uncomfortable conversation. You're confessing. Marcus said it like a realization. Which means you don't think we're leaving this room alive. Very perceptive. Yes, you caught me. I'm the evil mastermind. Frost's smile never wavered. But here's what you don't understand. I'm not alone. This operation involves 12 people across 4 countries. Every one of them is successful, powerful, untouchable. You expose me, you expose them, and they will destroy you. Your company, your reputation, your family. Emma. Marcus felt cold rage wash through him. Your daughter is a lovely girl. It would be a shame if something happened during her surgery. Medical complications are so common, so tragic, so impossible to prove. Frost's voice was casual, conversational. Or we can make a deal. Victoria transfers $50 million to an account I specify. You both sign NDAs. Victoria steps down as CEO, sells the company, disappears into comfortable retirement. And Emma gets her transplant, lives a long happy life, never knowing her father was a hero. The room was silent. Marcus looked at Victoria, saw the conflict in her eyes. The calculation. She could pay. $50 million was nothing to her. She could walk away, save his daughter, save herself. But she would spend the rest of her life knowing the people who killed her mother were free. Knowing they won. No, Victoria said. Frost's smile faded. Excuse me. I said no. Victoria's voice was stronger now, certain. You don't get to murder my mother and walk away. You don't get to threaten a child and expect me to negotiate. She pulled out her phone. And you definitely don't get to assume we came here unprepared. She tapped the screen and suddenly the conference room walls came alive with video. Multiple screens showing the same scene from different angles. The entire conversation they'd just had, recorded in crystal clear audio and video. Frost's face went white. What? Marcus used to work presidential security, Victoria said calmly. Did you really think we wouldn't bug this room before we came? That we wouldn't have backup? She gestured to the windows. There are federal agents in the building across the street. They've been listening to every word. Your 12 associates. Their names are in my mother's files. The FBI already has warrants. Frost lunged for the tablet, probably trying to erase something or call for help. Marcus moved faster despite the poison eating through his system. He caught Frost's arm, twisted it behind his back, slammed him face first onto the conference table. Federal agents are on their way up, Marcus said quietly into Frost's ear. You're done. The conference room doors burst open. Men and women in FBI windbreakers flooded in, weapons drawn, shouting commands. Marcus stepped back. Let them take over, let them cuff Frost and read him his rights. Victoria stood still, watching it all with an expression Marcus couldn't read. Then the adrenaline faded and Marcus's legs gave out. He felt Victoria catch him again, felt her hands on his face, heard her voice calling for Dr. Park. The last thing he saw before the darkness took him was Frost being dragged away, screaming about lawyers and rights and conspiracies. And Marcus thought, we won. Marcus woke up in a different hospital room. Cleaner, brighter, with machines that beeped in more optimistic rhythms. Dr. Park was there, checking monitors. When she saw his eyes open, she smiled. Welcome back. You've been out for 36 hours. Emma. Marcus tried to sit up. As fine, safe, surrounded by so much security she started complaining about it. Dr. Park pushed him gently back down. Victoria moved her to a private facility. Best doctors in the country. They're prepping her for transplant next week. And the poison. You're going to live, Marcus. Dr. Park's smile widened. Victoria called in every specialist she could find. We've been pumping you full of experimental treatments, cutting-edge therapies. The radioactive isotopes are clearing from your system faster than we expected. You'll need monitoring for years, but you're going to survive. Marcus felt something break loose in his chest. Relief, gratitude, hope. Where's Victoria? Testifying. Dr. Park checked her watch. Federal prosecutors have Frost and 6 of his associates in custody. 3 more fled the country but are being extradited. Victoria's been with the FBI for 2 days straight, giving them everything from her mother's files. The door opened. Victoria walked in looking exhausted but triumphant. When she saw Marcus was awake, her face transformed. You're back. I'm back. Marcus tried to smile. I heard you saved my life. Again. Consider us even. Victoria sat beside his bed. Frost is going away for the rest of his life. Multiple counts of murder, conspiracy, fraud, attempted murder. His associates are falling like dominoes. And my mother's company is finally safe. Your company, Marcus corrected. My company, Victoria agreed. Which needs a new head of security. Someone with presidential protection experience. Someone who knows how to spot threats before they happen. Someone who's willing to kiss his boss to save her life. Marcus laughed. It hurt, but it felt good. Are you offering me a job? I'm offering you a life. Victoria's voice was soft. You saved mine. Multiple times. Let me give you something back. A real salary. Healthcare for Emma. A future where you're not dying from poison or drowning in medical debt. I don't need charity. It's not charity. It's justice. Victoria met his eyes. My mother hired you because she knew I'd need protection. She was right. You've proven that, so let me finish what she started. Let me keep you and Emma safe. Marcus studied her face, saw the sincerity there, the determination, the fierce loyalty she brought to everything she did. Okay, he said finally. But I have one condition. Name it. No more kissing unless there's poison involved. Victoria laughed. It was the first time Marcus had heard her really laugh, loud and genuine and full of life. Deal, she said. 3 months later, Marcus stood outside Emma's hospital room, watching through the window as his daughter slept. The transplant had been successful. She was recovering faster than anyone expected. In another week, she'd be going home. Home to their new apartment in a better neighborhood. With better schools and safer streets. Funded by a salary that meant Marcus could finally breathe. She looks good. Victoria appeared beside him, 2 cups of coffee in hand. She gave him one. She looks alive. Marcus took the coffee gratefully. Because of you. Because of us. Victoria corrected. You saved me first, remember. They stood in comfortable silence, watching Emma sleep. Over the past 3 months, they'd spent countless hours like this. Victoria visiting Emma, bringing gifts and stories. Marcus healing and learning his new role. They'd become something Marcus didn't have a word for yet. Not quite friends. Not quite colleagues. Something in between. The board confirmed it this morning, Victoria said suddenly. I'm officially CEO. No more interim. No more questions. The company is mine. Congratulations. Thank you. And thank you for not letting me give up. Victoria turned to face him. After my mother died, I thought about selling everything. Walking away. It was too much, too hard. But you showed me what real courage looks like. What it means to sacrifice for something bigger than yourself. Marcus shook his head. I just did what anyone would do. No, you did what heroes do. Victoria's voice was firm. You saw danger and you ran toward it. You took poison meant for someone else without hesitation. You risked everything for a stranger. That's not normal, Marcus. That's extraordinary. Emma stirred in her sleep, a smile crossing her face. Marcus felt his throat tighten. I did it for her, he said quietly. Everything I do is for her. I know. And that's what makes you perfect for this job. Victoria finished her coffee. The world's full of people like Frost. People who think power means they can destroy others without consequences. We're going to prove them wrong. You, me, Emma when she's older. We're going to make sure what happened to my mother never happens to anyone else. Marcus looked at Victoria, saw the fire in her eyes. The determination that had kept her fighting even when everything looked hopeless. You sound like you're planning a war. Not a war, a mission. Victoria smiled. And I need the best security expert in the business to help me pull it off. Marcus returned the smile. I guess it's lucky you hired one. The sun set over the city, painting the sky in brilliant shades of orange and gold. Inside the hospital, Emma woke up. When she saw her father, her face lit up with pure joy. Dad, Victoria, you're both here. Marcus entered the room, Victoria right behind him. Emma immediately launched into a story about the nurse who let her pick the flavor of her medicine, about the therapy dog that visited, about a million small things that made up the life she was going to live. Marcus listened and watched his daughter shine, and felt something he hadn't felt in 3 years. Peace. The poison was gone from his body. The threat was neutralized. The bad guys were in prison. His daughter was healing, and he had a purpose again, something worth protecting, worth fighting for. Victoria caught his eye and smiled. A real smile, warm and genuine. And Marcus realized that the kiss that was supposed to end his life had actually saved it, had saved both of them, had turned two strangers into allies, had exposed corruption, had brought justice. One desperate act in a ballroom full of witnesses. One moment of pure instinct and courage. One kiss that changed everything. This story teaches us powerful truths about life. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's action despite fear. Marcus knew the champagne was poisoned. He knew it would kill him. He drank it anyway because someone else's life mattered more than his own fear. Justice takes patience and intelligence. Victoria didn't seek revenge. She sought truth. She built cases, gathered evidence, used the system to win. Real strength isn't about violence, it's about strategy. Your past doesn't define your future. Marcus was broke and desperate when this started. By the end, he'd built a new life. Circumstances can change. You can change them. Trust is earned through action, not words. Marcus and Victoria didn't trust each other because of promises. They trusted each other because they proved, again and again, that they'd sacrifice for each other. Evil wins when good people give up. Frost had power, money, connections. He seemed untouchable, but persistence and courage exposed him. The fight might be hard, but it's never hopeless. If this story moved you, hit that like button. If you want more stories about courage, justice, and people who refuse to give up, subscribe to our channel. And drop a comment below telling us, what would you do if you had 3 seconds to save someone's life? Remember, heroes aren't born. They're ordinary people who make extraordinary choices when it matters most. Until next time, stay strong, stay vigilant, and never stop fighting for what's right.